Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. This is The Next Reel, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and that there is Andy Nelson.
Hey, hey, hey.
And we spoil movies. Tonight on the show, we're heading back to Moscow, everybody. Drago's throwing a party in Creed 2.
In the ring, you got rules. Outside, we got nothing. Life hits you with all these cheap shots. People like me, we live in the past. You got people that need you now. You got everything to lose. This guy's got nothing to lose.
I ain't got a choice.
That's the same thing your father said, and he died right here in my hands. Listen to me, this guy is dangerous.
But you don't think I could beat him?
All right, Andy. Creed 2, the most recent in the series, the last of our series of the Rocky films, Creed 2. What did you think about this one?
I really liked it. I was going to dance around a little bit, but
no,
I was
you couldn't.
like,
Yeah.
No, I really liked it. I was, because Rocky 4, I enjoyed it. It had its issues, but it still was full on entertainment. And I thought they did a great job of bringing stuff back from Rocky 4. They even patterned some of the stuff here after Rocky 4, which I loved, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But it was, they added stuff to it that actually made it a really strong film for me. I had a wonderful time with this one, and I am sure they're planning on continuing the Rocky franchise. Why wouldn't they? But at this point, I feel like they've had some strong films in recent years to end it on. So, I mean, if it ended here, I feel like they're ending on a high note.
I think so too. I would be okay if they ended here. I liked it as well. I quite enjoyed it, and as you know, I was not as much of a fan of Rocky IV as certainly as you were. And this time around, I found it not as enjoyable of an experience, and I think this movie sort of revisits a lot of what was, presumably fun in my memory of Rocky IV, and actually enlivens it and makes it it makes it exciting again. And so I really enjoyed it. I feel like I'm holding this movie a little bit at arm's length, and I don't quite know why yet. Part of it, I think, comes from the fact that so much of this movie feels like it's in a microwave. The pacing individually, scene to scene, feels pretty good, but when I look at the movie as a whole, it feels like there are two movies jammed in here, right? One is the build toward the middle build, right, which is the first loss, and to Drago, and then we build up again to the final rematch, which is Rocky 1 and 2. So I finished watching the movie again, and I'm left thinking, wondering, is this the movie that they really needed to make? Like, this movie is so heavily fan service in many ways, right? They're using straight up narrative elements from so many of the movies that have come before it. And if you get past the fact that that's happening, if you don't find that distasteful, I think this is a really fun experience. If you find that at all distasteful and unoriginal, then this movie, I think, could get old pretty quickly. It sounds like you obviously had a good time with it, and I think I did too, but I just don't want that to go unsaid, that this movie feels like a heavy-duty retread in some areas that I think I would have loved to have seen Creed go off into a new story.
I can see your point, but I think it's and it makes sense, but at the same time, this is I don't know, for me, it's a foundational element of who Donnie is. The fact that his father is Apollo Creed, he is very much in his father's shadow, and this whole idea of fathers and sons, and this story that was really kind of about coming to terms with who his father was, and by facing essentially the essence of the person who killed his father in the ring, I thought was a fantastic next step. I really think that they made for me, a great choice in moving in this direction. And I was very happy with the way that it played out because of that. And I think that the father and son elements with Donnie and Apollo, with Donnie and Rocky, with Ivan and Victor, all of that really cemented this film as in a place that gave it so much strength that I really wasn't expecting. So for me, I think this was a huge win all the way around.
Yeah, and in some respects, I mean, I agree with you on all those points, and it actually, I'm relieved to hear you say all that. That actually gives me it gives me a little bit of freedom to be more enthusiastic about it, because I think I'm enthusiastic, but then I think, wait, really? To hear Dolph Lundgren talk about it, he talks about as getting a text from a set of texts from Sylvester Stallone saying, "Hey, we've got this idea. Would you ever be interested in playing Ivan again?" And then the next line is just "sins of our fathers." And that sort of started the whole thing. Now, if you go in a new direction, you don't really have the opportunity to lean heavily onto the father-son stuff, and that's really what this movie is about, right? It's about coming to terms with, with our patrons, and I do like that. I really do. I think it's great, and I forgive so much of the retread stuff because this movie does that better than the last movie did, right? Than the last movie that attempted to talk about this stuff. I think this movie is an improvement in so many ways, in those areas. So, okay, I'm sold.
It's and it's funny because I mean I was looking at reviews and kind of what people thought about this movie after I watched it, and I saw a lot of people going, "Oh, it's just a retread of past stories," and so much of it is just rehashing, and it didn't necessarily need to go this route. And I don't know, for me, I found this is really strong. So I feel like should I not love this movie as much as I do? But I do.
I don't mean to give you a complex. I really don't. That is not my intention. We have to help each other, Andy. We have to help each other. I love so many things that they do in this movie around father and son, and it's not just the actual narrative points, but there are some really cool visual tricks that they do, and especially when around Drago. There's one cut in particular, the medicine ball cut, that it just blows me away. I had to rewind it. It just happened so fast, and it's on its surface so simple. He's throwing the medicine ball. I'm gathering it's in a mirror, and they just reverse it, and so it looks like the shot's going from sort of right to left through a wall, and he throws a medicine ball at himself. But I
with
found
the mirror there,
with the mirror right there, such a simple cut, but it speaks to me. It speaks volumes about about watching Victor's progression. Victor, who says very little, a man of few words in this movie. He has some really strong scenes, and mostly he just looks mean. And to watch him train and actually feel like he's transforming as a result of his relationship, through his dad, with his dad, by his dad, to rediscover who he is as a fighter. I thought that was one of the most interesting angles. And in fact, all the Russian stuff I thought was an improvement over the superficial sort of Cold War Russian stuff of Rocky IV.
That stuff made sense for its time,
yes,
because of the Cold War, because it was right in the middle of it. But now it feels pretty dated, except for those fantastic haircuts. Whew,
yeah,
man,
right. They did it right.
But boy, did they! But I don't know. I just really loved the strength that the script had with these relationships. And sure, some of these turns might come across as pretty quick, but man, I don't know. Watching Ivan, it's just all the wheels turning in his head after his ex-wife walks out of the boxing ring at the end there, and just watching him really kind of evaluating what's important and everything. And I mean, I was in tears when he threw in the towel. I just thought, like, I didn't see that coming. It was a really powerful moment, and it spoke to me as a father. It spoke to me as somebody who is realizing things and learning about himself, and finally has that moment where it's like, I need to protect my son. I need to be there. There are more important things. It was beautiful.
If
just
not
so
now,
beautiful. And then,
when, right? If not me, who?
Yeah. So it worked on so many levels for me, and just the father-son stuff that we had at the end with Donnie at his father's tombstone, or at his grave, just everything. It was so nice. Just the moments that he had with Rocky, when he has his big breakup with Rocky, I guess you could say. And when he's after the first match with Victor, and he's just a mess in the hospital bed, and even going into the just kind of the repairing of that relationship as Marianne brings Rocky back into their lives, and just seeing them kind of find their place to heal. This was so strong. I was so impressed with the script, and I was really happily surprised to see that Stallone was back as one of the writers on it. And along with Jewel Taylor, and I guess that to me said, this is what I was saying about some of those other films. If Stallone, who I think has such a great sense of these characters, brings another writer on, and granted the story was also different people came on to do the story, Sasha Penn and Chio Hodari Coker, but with those other voices helping craft the script, I think that is what Stallone needed in some of those past films. Like Rocky V had good stuff in it, but it was a mess because I just don't think that he had a sense of the story. Here, he had other minds that helped craft a story that made for a really strong tale about these people.
Yeah, I agree. I think these other voices give us, I think, have brought to us a much more of a sort of human sense of relationships, and all of the relationships. And I mean, even the relationships around the boxing and the business. I found Russell Hornsby's Buddy Marcel a dramatically more compelling promoter. And a much more human promoter than any of the promoters that we've seen prior. It was, and maybe it's just a cultural change. Maybe it's just a mark of where we are in the 2000 teens that his character has changed. But I found him much more grounded and relatable, and that made the whole boxing part, the whole boxing business mechanic, relatable too. What about the relationship between Adonis and Bianca? Did you find Bianca as compelling a character in this film as you did in the first Creed?
Another thing that they did right is deliver their female characters so they weren't just these side characters that fit in just enough to kind of make things happen and then just basically get sidelined. These characters, both of them actually, I thought that Felicia Rashad and Tessa Thompson both had a nice presence of place throughout the script, and it actually worked with the relationships. It worked with developing these characters. And yes, it largely is father-son stories, but I think very much so it's family stories, and getting a real sense of the relationship growing between Donnie and Bianca, the fear of a baby that might have hearing problems, which it does, and seeing how that resolves, the relationship with Marianne and how that kind of grows as the family dynamic with Donnie, Bianca, and her, but also with Donnie and Marianne in relation to Apollo and the memories of Apollo, and also Marianne and Rocky, and how that kind of helps bring Donnie back. All of it worked. I think that those two women they're so strongly written, and they give some great moments throughout the script that actually really helps. Now, I don't know if it passes the whatever that test is,
the Bechdel test,
but it's okay, I think, because for me, they were really strong characters that I felt compelled by the entire time, and I never felt like they just got sidelined because this story is about Donnie.
Yeah, again, I feel like it was great to watch Bianca's character continue to develop. The hearing loss becomes an issue with the mother and child. It's still an issue with her. She's adjusting to hearing aids and using the hearing aids interestingly, like she's constantly turning them on and off. Depending on where she is, putting them in, taking them out. I thought that was great. I love the proposal as it relates to her and her hearing loss, right? That she doesn't have the hearing aids in as he's proposing. I thought that was it on one hand, it's kind of a cheeky meet cute sort of an element, but on the other, they really made it pay off, right?
Yeah.
What'd you miss? Nothing you don't know already. I thought that was just a delightful exchange, and
and it also gave us an opportunity to recreate one of my favorite moments from the first Creed, when they're having that conversation with each of them on opposite sides of the door.
Yes,
and we get that again with that proposal when she sees what he's doing and slams the door, and then they have a conversation on both sides before she opens the door again. It was nice. Right. I liked that. It provided an opportunity to bring that back.
Absolutely. Yeah, she was delightful. I back to something you said, this is just as much a movie about family. Yeah, I really agree with that. And I think that's sort of the secondary sort of level of this film, insofar as it exists to explore these father-son relationships. Phylicia Rashad is such a strong maternal figure that we certainly can't ignore, like, her relationship with Adonis as a defining relationship in the film that propels his actions, as well, like him seeking her approval and her faith. And that last exchange that we get at the end of the final bout, when she is just standing so stoic and mouths those words of like love to him, that's just crushingly powerful mother-son stuff.
Yeah. It was beautifully done. I thought Steven Caple Jr., who directed it, just had a good handle on those little moments, those small details that pop up that I feel like they're in the previous films, but they just feel a little different. And just the way that Caple handled them here, I thought was just smooth and allowed for the honesty, but it didn't slow down the pace. I really appreciated the way that it unfolded.
When Bianca takes the big sip of wine and spits it back in to the glass, it is so adorable. Oh my God. So funny.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
It's my very favorite.
Something else that I thought was actually interesting, not necessarily about characters, but just story structure. I thought it was really interesting that this film essentially kind of starts with the big fight that very well could have been, to your point earlier about doing a different story, kind of taking us in a different direction. It could have been the big fight at the end of a different version of the second film, right? We start with him fighting Stuntman to become the world champ. And Stuntman was who he fought in the first Creed film and lost to, just kind of, when he was angry and just trying to make a point and he wanted to get Little Duke to train him. And he loses his car and basically it's back on the line. But that's how the film starts. And knowing where Rocky 2 went, I was like, it would have made almost more sense for Creed 2 to follow, if it really was kind of following that same path, to have him battling Stuntman, and to have that kind of be the end of the second film. But it wasn't, and I thought it was actually really interesting that that kind of kicks us off in this one.
And such a great character bit too, when at the end of that fight, when Adonis wins, that he's screaming, "Give me my keys, give me back my keys," as Bianca is telling him, "Do you know what you just did? Do you know what you just did? You are now the world heavyweight champ," and all he wants is his Mustang back. I thought that was just perfect way to reintroduce us to this character of Creed.
That was good.
How do you feel about the montages?
It's not as egregious as Rocky IV, but I do like that they give us at least two nice training montages before each of the bouts, which I thought worked in context of doing some retreads from Rocky IV. We've got training montages. We've got the beard. He does training out in the boonies, this time the desert. Obviously, there's kind of the loss that a character has to Drago before the win. And then, of course, we get the big stagey entrance to that first battle, all of which are kind of nice retreads that we get that worked in context of this film and the way that it was being told. I thought the training montages were nice. And actually, when we have that final training montage out in the desert and the music's pumping and Gonna Fly Now kind of starts kicking in, and we just see Donnie. He gets up off the ground and he's just pushing and pushing. It was very inspiring. I totally ate it up.
Me too. I was into it. The only thing that I thought was a little, this is so, maybe it's a weird thing on me, that I am taken out of the movie when Rocky's in the car driving and Adonis is running through the desert behind him and passes out. And Rocky just turns around and says, "Get up, kid. Get up, kid." Like, Adonis is dehydrated and passed out in the desert, and then he gets up. I found that That was the least believable thing in the movie for me.
Yeah, that might have been a little much, but
He was probably the most danger of any point in the movie there as he's passed out in the
what's
desert.
worse, that or Rocky helping a guy whose horse and carriage are stuck in a snowbank?
I already took that movie off the table, Andy. That was ludicrous. Anyhow, I thought that was amusing. You talk about stagey entrances. You're right. The stagey entrance the first time around is it's stagey. It's world champ stagey. The stagey entrance on the final bout is beautiful and also very stagey. It actually starts with Bianca singing live, which I thought was an incredibly nice touch from the perspective of theatrics. I don't know how. I mean, I know it shows how sort of what a dominating performer she is, that she's able to silence that arena as she performs under those laser lights. I thought that was just gorgeous. I wasn't sure it sold the modesty factor that I thought he might have been going for in this final bout.
Yeah, he hadn't really learned any lesson on that front.
No, he's learned nothing.
certainly true. But what I did like about that, and I guess this is why I end up forgiving it, is because it ties him to his wife. It allows for a very direct connection with a spouse to be a part of the boxing match that you don't normally get.
Yep.
And so to that end, I was like, that was actually really nice touch. And
yes,
I liked
beautiful.
that she kind of came in to kind of perform for her husband.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Or I guess not quite husband. Well, I don't know. We never really know if they've gotten married at any point. We know time's passed, and we know they've had a baby over the course of the movie.
And
we
a
know
lot
he
of time has
proposed.
passed because he goes through his whole depression.
Yeah, right. A
And
lot of
that's-
time has passed.
yeah.
I'm assuming that at some point they got married and we just never saw it. And I forgot to ever look on their fingers for rings.
Scrubbing right now, and I'm not seeing it. And yep, she has a ring on her finger. Okay, confirmed, Andy. She's married.
So at least by the very end of the film, they're married.
Yep.
One person we haven't really talked about much at this point yet is Stallone. And I mean, he definitely, I would say, hands down, the performance he delivers in the first Creed film is the stronger performance between the two. It was just an amazing performance that he delivered in that film.
It required more of him, I think.
Well, it did. This one, though, I still feel he gives, and that's something that I've grown to really appreciate with Sylvester Stallone that I didn't really know was there, is how much heart this guy has, and what he does with these characters that he's grown with and loved for decades now. And every time he's having conversations that are very kind of close to the heart, I find it so strong and touching, and I just really feel connected to him. And I'm really I think if anything that I've taken away from watching all these Rocky films, that's it, is just how strong he is as an actor who can really deliver on that heart front that I wasn't expecting. I feel a lot of that here, and it really became that much more powerful in a moment like where when Donnie's in the hospital and he gets mad at Rocky for not having been there, and now he's coming back and all this sort of stuff, and watching kind of the pain there and that in that relationship on both sides, it was really touching. And I think all of this built really nicely to an incredibly powerful end when he goes and reconnects with his son. And I loved that Milo returns Ventimiglia as his son. I mean, just what a powerful way to kind of end that thread in this story.
Did you was there anticipation for you when he knocked on that door? Like,
in what sense? Because I mean,
for me, it was please get Milo, please get Milo, please get Milo. Like, I don't know why, but I for some reason, I like was going to be really bent out of shape if there was a different actor for this like 5-second scene.
Yeah, right. Well, I had read that Milo, when the conversations started happening about Creed 2 and fathers and sons and all that stuff, somebody had asked Milo if he was going to return, and he said, "Well, they haven't asked me yet, but I hope they do because I'd love to come back in." So I knew that if he was going to be back in, that it would be him.
I'm glad it was him. He's got a good look for it, and I love that we introduce now the next generation Balboa, Logan Balboa.
Yeah.
That was nice. Let's talk about the look of the final fight. Can we talk about that? And I'm looking specifically at the introduction to it, right? We had the big laser light show when she comes out, and then it looks, I don't know, this is another one of those that looks weirdly fake. We know it was filmed during the Anthony Joshua Joseph Parker fight in Wales on March 31st, 2018. I don't know how they do this, right? When they shoot, do they just shoot like plates of the auditorium? I mean, they're going to need more time than they can shoot during the middle of another bout to shoot this kind of stuff. Do you know how this works?
No, I didn't read that, so I'm curious now.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
Also curious.
I'm guessing what it was plates. They probably, if anything, because I'm assuming it was just crowd shots that you're talking about.
Yeah. They already have the ring set up so they can float the camera around, they can get into it, and then they do the rest of their stuff in like a modified auditorium with a smaller audience.
Yeah, right. They probably then, I'm guessing that they probably just had cameras positioned. I don't know. I wonder if they had permission to I don't know, to kind of just set up cameras during the match that just kind of ran during the match so that they could kind of capture some of that footage, and then they could kind of use it as the backgrounds. Yeah, like you're saying. I don't know. It's very interesting. They could have had some on wires, perhaps. Yeah,
maybe. Just fly the cameras around. Lighting, the audience lighting, I find super distracting. They fly those spotlights around, but I don't like public events like this, so I would find it annoying in real life.
I guess for me, I just thought it was really interesting, and I'm sure that they actually do this, but I thought it was interesting that the lights were designed to make it look like a cage match.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. Them walking into the ring at first was it's daunting. And when you look at the lights as the camera sweeps around, the lights that are shooting up and down, in the audience, it actually it expands that cage. It looks like a curtain of light around them, which I think is really cool texture behind what is otherwise just bright fight lighting, same as last time.
Yeah, right. But speaking of the fight, there were a few interesting camera tricks that they did. Nothing that stood out like what Maurice did in Creed with the long shots, which were really beautifully done. But I think that here you do get some things that caught my eye. One of the first things was actually is the very first match of the film, when the two fighters step up to each other to touch gloves. It's like a worm's eye view shot from like right between their feet, looking straight up at them. And I was like, well, that was a really interesting way to kick this off. And then during the fight, when we're in that final fight, we've got some incredibly slow motion shots of both Donnie's and Victor's faces as the other's glove is hitting it. And it was like super slow motion, just to kind of emphasize the real kind of what they're taking when they get hit like that.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It's fantastic. We don't have any, as far as I know, we don't have any of the behind the scenes footage that I can find of anybody taking an actual fight, of Michael B. Jordan taking a hit from Florian Munteau. I didn't find any of that. I would have loved to have seen it because Munteau is a monster.
Yeah. Yes, he is. They all talk about that too, about how big this guy is. I mean, he's just a tower of muscle.
He really is. And when you look at him, a lot of people, even really strong people, their muscles, they like their arm muscles, it looks like they have an end, they'll go into a joint or to a bend or something that looks like they go into something. His don't. Like his forearm starts a long muscle that looks like it weaves throughout his entire body and you can't ever see where it ends. He is just massive.
Yeah, he is big. I am
fine,
curious.
Fine looking man right there.
I'm curious if he's going to end up kind of growing a film career any further from that particular film.
I don't know. If you look on his Instagram account, Big Nasty, you can see such profile pictures as Florian shirtless accepting the Domino's Ambassador certification diploma. What is that all about? Pizza for life at Domino's Pizza Romania. That's a thing I didn't know about Florian Munteau.
Well, here's something else. This is something that he says about how he gets an 8-pack abs as opposed to the regular 6-pack.
Oh, I could use the extra two. Go on.
Yeah. I'm training my abs 4 times a day. The routine that I have is 40 or 45 minutes before I start my regular workout. I focus on the obliques and the lower abs to get the 8-pack, a lot of hanging leg raises or knee raises, and the workout where you have your legs tied up in front of you and someone's throwing a medicine ball over your head and you're throwing it back. So that's what you need to do if you want that 8-pack, Pete.
I'm sorry, Andy. Can you describe that again to your understanding? What exactly is going on with that medicine ball and your legs, your restrained legs?
Yeah, I don't know. Your legs are tied up in front of you.
Okay.
So you're sitting, I think, and your legs are tied so you're not moving. And then someone throws a medicine ball at you over your head. You got to catch it.
With your feet?
No, your feet are tied to you can't move because your feet are tied.
See, I thought your feet were tied together. And the ball comes over your head and you catch it on your legs and then throw it back up over your head with your legs. Is that not what's happening?
Wow. No. That's an interesting
because if not, we may have just invented something for Florian.
You may have
really up his game.
Well, he can already do the push-ups where he drops down, grabs those big ropes and flings them while he throws himself back up in the air.
That was so cool. I was like,
oh, I'm going to do that at the gym next time I'm there. No, not really.
I can't lift up the ropes. That's the problem. Did you see the one where he's doing neutral position pull-ups, but he has a chain with weights around his waist, and he's got probably, I don't know, what, another 200 pounds around his waist?
Something like that.
And he's doing pull-ups? That's humiliating.
That's Big Nasty.
Right.
I loved him as the villain.
He was great.
I thought, and actually it was really interesting that the film does kind of work at setting us up to care for him and Donnie and to really kind of get this sense of that father-son relationship there and the struggle that he's having. And I thought that was really interesting. I wasn't expecting that. So I thought that was a pretty nice twist to the story.
Oh, get this. I mean, everybody has a redemption angle in this movie. That's really refreshing, right? Ivan...
Except for Ludmilla.
Yeah, okay. Everybody that we care about gets a redemption story in this movie. Is that better?
That's better.
That Ivan and Victor actually have a start at something new after the end of this movie as he throws in the towel. I think that was an incredibly touching moment as you know they try to figure out how to resolve things. You know, who knows what happens next, but God, I just thought it was great.
Yeah, watching the two of them now, his dad is jogging by his side, and you see the two of them training together and just being together, and not just as trainer and trainee, but as father and son.
Right.
And I really loved that. That relationship that I honestly wasn't expecting the relationship of the Dragos to develop like it did in this film, and it made for a much stronger film. And I think Dolph Lundgren pulled it off. I think Florian Munteau pulled it off, and I was so happy to see that change in these guys, and to see Ivan kind of grow and learn with this film. It really worked for me.
In terms of athletes turned actors, I think Florian is my favorite of the mix so far.
So far.
He's the one
now that
supposed to be evil.
now we're at the end
Now
of
that
it.
we're in, yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you, what do you make of Creed's trunks in the final fight? Was that some sort of like he's wearing the flag trunks, but they've been somehow blacked out, like they have not, like he washed them with only darks a lot. Do you know what that means?
Like,
did I miss something there? Like, did I miss a message?
I don't think so.
I
guess it didn't even stand out to me as something to pay attention to. I don't even remember his trunks.
Usually he's wearing the red, white, and blue trunks that he got from his mom,
Yeah.
right? Well,
Right,
those
right.
trunks, he's wearing those trunks, but they're like they're dyed somehow black.
Huh.
It's cool. It's a cool look, but you can see it especially when he gets knocked down and he's pounding the mat, right?
Yeah.
And they have this overhead shot looking straight down at him. I didn't even know he was wearing the same trunks. I feel like that's a symbolic thing that we should know about when you black out the trunks.
I don't know.
Right.
It piques my curiosity now. I'm going to have to
Consider
go
it
back and
piqued.
look at it to see what I make of this.
Yes, indeed. Consider it peak.
Yeah.
Speaking of color,
Mhm.
poor Russia. I mean, really, it's another movie where Russia's blue and kind of there's no color. You know that trope? I mean, until the very end, the final fight, it's vibrant and big and beautiful in HDR. But all of the other sequences, I think until the dinner is in color, but all the other sequences early on are so drab. And I think that trope to do to the to the Eastern Bloc in film is so tired. I found that kind of frustrating. In fact, my wife walks down. My wife walks down as they're moving boxes or something. Maybe they're running, and I had told her loosely what this was about, and she, of course, lived in Russia for a long time, and
Right.
and she looked at the screen and she immediately said, "Oh, they must be in Russia." Because she saw it was blue and very drab, and she made sure to tell me again, the Russian people do see in color. And so I thought she was very sarcastic, but it was a good reminder.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But it's the Ukraine, Pete.
I'll pass that on.
Just let her know.
Oh, it's the Ukraine, Andy said.
That's right.
Okay, can we talk just a bit about Steven Caple?
Yes.
What do we know? What do we know about the good Steven Caple?
Stallone actually had this to say. He said, "I believe it's important for the director to also be a part of this generation like I was in mine, to make the story as relatable as possible. We are extremely lucky to have the talented young filmmaker Steven Caple Jr. step up and accept the role of director. I'm confident that he and Michael B. Jordan will hit it out of the park." I think that Coogler couldn't return because he was tied up in Black Panther. And that's why actually the whole thing ended up kind of getting delayed anyway, because Michael B. Jordan was also tied up in Black Panther. But obviously the director has a little bit more before and after the production. And so Caple Jr. came on to direct this film. He is a filmmaker who, I think, what was it? He's been around largely since like 2013. His student film won like HBO's short film competition, and then he made a feature film a few years later that got a lot of buzz. It got him on different lists, like one of the like 30 under 30 and one of the 25 best breakthrough directors of 2016. He did that project for HBO about Emmett Till that was kind of the birth of the civil rights movement, and really kind of just kind of stepped into the limelight very quickly, not having done a lot. But I think that he really, I don't know, I felt that he was a director who had a very assured hand with the story he was telling and the characters that he was working with. I was really impressed. I didn't see a lot of the touches like Ryan Coogler had with some of the cinematography, but I still felt that Caple brought this story together and cared for these characters and made it all work.
There were some. I didn't get a lot of the long follow shots that I absolutely fell in love with in the last movie.
Yeah, that was very much something that Coogler was bringing to the table.
Just a notable stamp on that film with Maurice. Yeah, this one, there were some really nice moments and some really touching and astute framings. You know, we have a couple of sequences at the cemetery. The last shot of Stallone at the end of the big fight is a really beautiful slow motion pull away behind Stallone with Creed on his back and his hat on, and it's just lovely with all the action in the ring. I mean, there's some really beautiful stamps that I just like to stop and blow up on my wall because they're just lovely, even in the absence of some of the more audacious kind of moves. This was an able and I think loving and honorable contribution to these characters,
especially since you never know. People always come out of retirement, but as we've talked about on our Saturday matinee list this past week. But Stallone did say, he's retiring the character Rocky, and he's taking a break from it. But I think Dolph Lundgren and I can't remember one of the other actors, they were talking in an interview about the fact that he said that he was retiring, and they're like, he'll probably be back. I think it's going to be hard for him to let go of this character.
Yeah. Well, and this is these are the perils of researching these films kind of 1 week at a time. We didn't run across that in that research after Creed, because back during Creed, he was still saying, hey, I really think I love exploring who this character is. And then we have this wonderful, and I had not seen this when it first got posted across social media, but somebody posted from the wrap party of last day of shooting on this movie. They're at a campfire around a trash can on a beach, and everybody asks Sly for a speech, and there's a 1 minute video where he says, I think I'm done. I'm handing this off to these characters off to the able hands of these people, and he gives Michael B. Jordan a hug, and that's the emotional goodbye video.
Yeah, right.
And it's kind of, after these last 8 weeks, it's kind of hard to watch. I was misty, Andy.
Yeah, it is easy to feel that. And now, having kind of gone through this whole series a relatively short period of time, I can see that. Like, I really have connected with this character, and I think there's a lot of strength there. So, and it does hurt to know that he might be retiring the character. I don't think we mentioned Wood Harris last time. I can't remember, as Little Duke. We might have. I can't remember. But
very brief.
But I do love that they brought him in a bigger capacity, as his father had that kind of role in the corner for Apollo, and then for Rocky. He was in there all 6 films of the original run, and having him now kind of stepping in to be Donnie's corner man in that first fight was great. And then just seeing him kind of continue that mantle. I loved that. I loved having, especially after the confrontation that he had with Donnie in the first film, where he said, I'm not going to train you. I'm going to tell everybody not to train you because you're not ready. And then to see it come around to this, I really liked that. I liked that relationship has been developing.
How about the music on this one? Ludwig Göransson is back.
It's great. It's a great continuation of the score from Creed, and continuing the themes that Bill Conti did for the original Rocky films. I thought that it was really beautiful. It was a nice continuation of the music.
I thought so too. And again, the nods to the original score were, I think, subtle at best. It felt really mostly original, and that means when the fugue starts in the final fight, again, we get the hint of the first 3 bars, I think, of the big fugue, and it's a choker. It was placed just perfectly in that final fight.
What's funny is Vince DiCola, who did the music for Rocky IV, there were rumors that he was going to come back to score this one. And I just have to say, thank goodness that Weiserhead's prevailed, because it's the worst music in the franchise. Oh, I can't imagine them making that decision.
Yeah, definitely an improvement.
Yeah. Speaking of, this is a minor note, but just speaking of music and sound, the sound, I love the way that they played with the sound. We're cutting between a conversation between Marianne and Bianca while I think it's when Donnie is in his depression and he's in the water and he's kind of swimming and he's kind of coming up and out of the water and then back under the water. And it just intercutting those two scenes, but their conversation continues over both scenes. And what I really liked about that is when he would go underwater, it made the conversation kind of drop into a sound like it was underwater. It was a really interesting effect that I thought was an interesting. I don't know, I don't know if I could pinpoint if there's any particular reason why it would make sense thematically, but I still liked it.
It was really cool. Right.
Yes.
Another really cool, if you watch through the end of the credits, the final credits, the design of the final credits, I thought was similarly lovely, just overlaying Creed 2 footage with stills from past films, early fights. That's another one.
Awesome Russian haircuts.
Awesome Russian haircuts. It just draws out the tears. Oh, we hardly knew ye.
Good stuff.
Have you ever heard of the Drago spin-quel script?
No.
You hadn't heard of that? I'd heard rumors of it and that it was possibly going to be spun into Creed 2. Apparently that was not true. It was a fan script and it's still floating around somewhere. If you can get your hands on it, you can see what it would have looked like had we gone from Creed to Drago.
Interesting.
Yeah, would have been an interesting thing. What did you want to say?
Oh, we posted this over in our Facebook, I don't know what you call it, our Facebook fan page, your Facebook page. The
what is this
TNR?
Facebook?
What is this Facebook thing? Yeah, right. Over in our TNR MMM Executive Lounge, we had posted this a few days ago or last week at some point about an article that popped up about Stallone and how in Creed 2 there was a scene where he and Dolph Lundgren were actually going to come to blows again.
Right.
And it did get cut, but it's on our Facebook page over there if you want to check it out. Stallone posted it up on Instagram. It was just a rehearsal. It was a short fight that was supposed to happen between the two of them. It was after he leaves Donnie, after Donnie's been beaten, and Ivan and Ivan and Buddy, the promoter, they actually come over with a film crew to kind of to poke at Donnie a little bit, but Rocky won't have it and ends up kind of coming to blows with Ivan in the lounge of the hospital there. So it would have been an interesting little scene to kind of see the two of them trading blows again in a Rocky film, but it did not end up happening. But if you want to check it out, you can just go check it out on either Stallone's Instagram feed or over on our Facebook group page.
I am relieved they did not do that because that shows the characters grew in no way at all. At least Rocky. I feel like that would have been a letdown. How'd it do at award season?
It was not a big award film. I think a lot of people are feeling, this is kind of hitting that whole sequelitis thing. It only had one win with 4 other nominations. The win was at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. Michael B. Jordan won for this and Black Panther. They said it's thrilling to honor Michael B. Jordan this year for the emboldened way he's shown us what it means to be a movie star for the 21st century, mixing sensitivity with swagger, choosing important material that remains full of integrity, yet become world phenomenon, and forging a cinematic partnership with visionary director Ryan Coogler. I thought that was a really nice thing to say.
Really nice. We should be so lucky.
Exactly. The other nominations at the Black Reel Awards, Michael B. Jordan again was nominated for Best Actor, but he lost to his Black Panther partner, Chadwick Boseman, and Ludwig Göransson was nominated for Best Score, but lost to Nicholas Britell for If Beale Street Could Talk. And then the other ones were for Tessa Thompson, was nominated at the Central Ohio Film Critics Association and the North Texas Film Critics Association, but didn't win those ones.
I'm a little bit worried about asking you about the numbers because I enjoyed this movie and I feel like I'm going to get my feelings hurt.
Don't worry, Pete. It still did a good job at the box office. Caple got a cool $50 million to make this 8th entry in the Rocky franchise, getting about a $10 million bump from what Coogler had for Creed. The studio again targeted the Thanksgiving holiday, releasing the movie November 21st, 2018, opposite Ralph Breaks the Internet and Robin Hood. But it couldn't get past the animated film opposite which it opened, landing in the number 2 spot. It still did exceptionally well for itself, as everyone wanted to see the fight with the Ruskies again. The movie went on to earn $115.7 million domestically and $97 million internationally, for a grand total of $212.7 million, landing with an adjusted profit per finish minute of just under $1.3 million. Now, if we step back and look at all the films in the franchise that we've talked about, the first one is still the biggest earner, with that incredible profit-to-cost ratio of 225%, which is, I think, speaks to the independent nature, really, of that first one. Right. After that, the ranking of most profitable films in the franchise goes 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 5. Way down at the bottom.
Wow.
If you look just at the straight-up box office gross, number 4 is at the top, 5 is on the bottom. And if you adjust the box office gross, number 1 is back on top, and weirdly, number 7 ends up on the bottom.
I would not have expected that at all.
Yeah, I don't either. It's strange that it would drop down there, but
why
did.
Why is that?
I think it's a more recent movie, so it's there's not as much change in its dollar.
Oh, the adjust. Of course.
When you're
today's
adjusting
dollars, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Andy, we did it. What started as a young man's dream has finally come to fruition. I snuck
Forced
these
upon
movies. I thrust them upon our list, and you've done it. You've made it through all 8 Rocky movies. I would like to give you the floor. I yield my time to hear some closing thoughts from you. Maybe a toast to what is now, I'm sure, your favorite film franchise.
I was actually, it's funny that you say that. I was actually looking at different franchises and which ones I rank the highest. This one is not at the top, but it is really high up there. I was really pleasantly surprised with this. I don't know why largely I avoided this franchise. I think it's just because boxing has never been my favorite thing to watch. But as I watched all these movies, I'm like, this boxing thing, it's something really appealing. It really draws me in. I don't know what this is saying about me and my future sports watching. Who knows? But I just have to tip my hat to Stallone and these characters he's created, and the way that he's kept them honest through the franchise, even when it's had some ups and downs with some of the issues and introducing the crazy robot and things like that. I think largely it's just a franchise that has a lot of heart. And I think Stallone even said as much. He said this franchise is really not so much for boxing fans, but it's for people who are maybe don't feel like they have they feel like they might be less than, and they're trying to achieve something greater than them. And it's about that, trying to persevere and everything. And I think that's why it rings so true and affects people as much as it does. And it's like the most successful sports franchise in history. It's amazing. And I'm really impressed with this franchise, and I'm glad that now I've seen them all and I can see why it's a franchise that excuse me, I can see now why it is a franchise that so many people love. And it certainly is one that I would find myself happily returning to. Oh. Even the lesser films, I would happily watch them again. They're all very watchable.
It has been an exhilarating watch. I mean, 1 through 8, even the dip in the middle, I still get joy out of, again, because I too love these characters. But to watch it climb from there to this point with Creed and Creed 2, that still delivers such joy and such excitement in the ring and such a beautiful look at human relationships and human frailty through something that is so brutish and violent, I find enormously compelling. I really enjoy these movies. I've loved this the last 2 months of digging into these with you, and I'm excited to rank this final one.
I am too. Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel. You'll see all the movies that we have ranked. We have pitted against one another on our list there. If you slide over in your show notes and you tap Flickchart, it'll take you straight to this movie where you can add it to your list and see how it stacks up against ours.
Fitting start. Creed 2 or Rocky 3?
Oh, Creed 2.
Creed 2. Creed 2 or Rocky Balboa? What are the odds?
This is the tough one for me because I think I'm Rocky Balboa. I really enjoyed Rocky Balboa a lot, but I don't know. I may be able to be swayed.
Well, I'm Creed 2.
You are?
Yeah. I was very pleasantly surprised. But Rocky Balboa, I think, is also a great pick. But I'm Creed 2.
All right. I'm going to give you Creed 2. This changes things for me.
What is going on here? Creed 2 or Creed? Like, it's...
Are you sure you're not just ranking the list?
What is going on? Oh, I guess we'll find out after this one.
Right. I am Creed.
I am Creed. Creed 2 or The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? Oh, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly for me.
Yeah, Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Creed 2 or The Thing? Definitely The Thing.
Yes, The Thing.
Creed 2 or Zodiac? I will say Zodiac.
I think I'll go Creed 2. Let's see what happens.
Interesting. Well, let's duke it out then.
All right.
One, two, three.
Paper.
Rock.
Wow.
Oh, Creed 2 or Zero Dark 30? I'm going to say Creed 2.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm guilty. I'm a little guilty about it. Is that weird? I'm guilty about it.
Well, it's okay. Creed 2 or The Sting?
The Sting,
hands
Sting.
down.
Absolutely.
That lands Creed 2 in slot 88 on our chart.
Wow.
Slot 88.
That's a bump.
So that, that's pretty high up there. Would you like to know the ranking?
Yes.
For all 8.
Yes,
all right. So,
for God's sakes, man.
So as we determined last week, Creed ended up one slot above Rocky. So it's Creed in slot 49, Rocky in slot 50. Creed 2 is next, then Rocky Balboa, then Rocky 2, 3, 4, 5. Straight down the line.
What is your personal rank? Do you happen to can you pull that? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I can. I pre-planned all of this. It landed at 257 out of 4105, which is a 94% for me. Like, I really, really love this movie. For me, Creed is at the top, followed by Creed 2, then Rocky Balboa, then the first Rocky, and then 2, 4, 3, 5.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, right now, things are all in flux because now I have to go back in and I have to re-rank Creed 2. But I think the way it's going to shake out is Rocky, Creed, Rocky 2, Creed 2, which is appropriate. That feels appropriate to me. It honors the firsts. And from there, it goes to Rocky Balboa, Rocky 3, Rocky 5, Rocky 4. I think that's where it ends up.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
But, all of them are, to me, they're all of a piece. With the exception of Rocky 4, they could all be the same thing. And that
I have a feeling Rocky 4 will grow on me.
You think it's going to grow on you?
It's so silly, but there's like, you get to the end of that fight, I'm like, it was a good fight. I really enjoyed it. So I have a feeling that even Rocky 4, I will find more love for.
I'm totally fine with you finding more. That's fine. You can have that. I just think that you should remember that it's the whole movie that you have to think about.
Well, maybe I'm not.
Rank these
maybe
things.
I'm forgetting a lot of parts.
It sounds like it. Sounds a lot like that. So what do you do with this for letterbox.com/thenextreel? How many stars do you give this?
I have a hard time giving this anything except a 4.5, which is where I have Rocky and Creed. 4.5 and a heart.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to do the
Wow,
same
look at
thing.
that.
4.5 in a heart. I really enjoyed this movie, and I feel sort of vindicated on this movie because I went into it with questions about my own feelings. I needed a little peer pressure to push me over the edge on this one, but I really enjoyed it. I had a really wonderful time. I haven't seen this as many times as the other movies, obviously, and I think now I've sat through it 3 times, and I still enjoy it probably a little more every time.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff happening
Yeah.
here. So I'm excited by it, and I look forward to seeing if they continue this, and if so, how.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be Clubber Lang Jr.
Right. How this gets to I think the biggest question of the night for the first time in 8 weeks. Where do we possibly go from here?
Ah, yes. We are going to be, we had it's interesting. I don't think we planned this, but last year we had Creed 2 and we also had A Star is Born. And both of these series that we're doing right now are ending with one of these films from last year. So right now we're going to be kicking off our A Star is Born series by looking first at A Star is Born from 1937. Then we're going to be looking at A Star is Born 1954. And then we're going to be looking at A Star is Born 1976. And we'll be ending with A Star is Born 2018.
It's so weird, right? That's weird. Why is this story the one that gets 4 remakes over the decades?
And what's interesting, and I don't think I even realized this, is that it really was from another film that actually even we probably should have included at the start of this. And if I have time, I'm certainly going to try to watch it. But there's another film called, what is it called? I want to say it's What Price? What Price Hollywood?
Constance
from
Bennett.
1932. Yeah. I didn't even know this when we built this series, but this is kind of that same story. It was a precursor, I guess you could say, George Cukor's film What Price Hollywood, that kind of had the same story. And then William Wellman made his own version of it and made it as A Star is Born. So if I get a chance, I'm certainly going to check out What Price Hollywood just so we can include it in the conversation.
Right.
But regardless, it's an interesting tale about fame and age and diction and all sorts of things. And I'm curious to see all of these films, especially because I've only seen the most recent one.
I'm excited about it. We've got 4.5 movies to talk about over the coming weeks. And what a weird story to get so much attention over so many decades.
Yeah. Well, I think it speaks to the circles of fame within Hollywood.
Yep.
So. Well, if you want to hear more of us, but you can't wait until next week's show, check out our new show, The Marvel Movie Minute.
We're talking about the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. We're starting with 2008's Iron Man.
You can support that show and all of our shows over on thenextreel.com/Patreon. And you can also get access to our exclusive members-only weekend show, The Saturday Matinee.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Amazon giveth, Andy.
As Amazon always doeth.
Oh, Andy, people don't like this movie in the 1 and 2 star range. Did you notice that?
Either that or, weirdly, I've seen more people saying, I didn't order this as their complaint, as their 1-star review. It's like, why are there so many people who didn't order this who are getting it and then reviewing it?
What is going on, Amazon? I'm going to start reviewing products that I bought at Bed Bath & Beyond, but I'm going to start doing it on Amazon. Maybe on the movie page that's closest related. Do you know what? Remember how in Panic Room there's the shot that goes through the CGI cup?
Coffee, yeah.
I'm going to start reviewing cups on that page. Like actual cups. I have a cup here I'd like to review. This is great. This is a very exciting way for us to branch out. All right. I've got Tom, who is not a fan. He says he liked all the original Rockies movies, but he just couldn't get into Creed. Very slow-moving storyline that just lacked something to keep my attention or interest for me to continue watching. He turned off the movie 45 minutes into it and went to another movie. Just couldn't take it anymore. Just couldn't
the drama.
take it. I don't know why he turned off the movie and then went to another movie. What was going on there?
I love it that he was tired of this movie, only made it 45 minutes in, yet he still has time to go to Amazon
and hate
leave
on
a
it.
2-star review.
Yeah.
But it's a 2-star hate.
Yes.
It doesn't even make sense as hate.
Weird.
Yeah,
and because,
very weird.
this generalization that there are some good parts in it, right? That it's that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm not pleased. I'm not pleased.
I like to imagine him throwing his hand to his forehead as he says that last line.
I just couldn't take it anymore.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, no, that's good. You got to bury yourself in the part.
Well, I've got a 1-star from Bazooka Joe who says, predictable snooze-a-palooza. I've seen better plots on PBS Rump Rangers of Montana. If I could give it -2 stars, I would. Stallone is about as entertaining as a bout of the squirts.
What is all these words? What are all these words that are floating around? Oh my God. Out of the sort. PBS Rump Rangers? What is that?
Rump Rangers of Montana. I have no idea.
What is that?
I
It
have
shouldn't
no
exist. Do you think they did they read that before it was submitted or the show was made? What? Rump Rangers? Andy.
PBS too. PBS.
Thanks, Amazon. It is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
So many great movies, so many great conversations. But it's a lot of work. Producing this show week after week does require a lot behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
We had some great films in Season 8 that started their lives as books or plays, and you can find all of them on our Originals page at thenextreel.com/originals.
That's the site where listeners can find links to purchase all the source material behind the adapted films we covered, from Season 1 up through our current season.
For part of Season 8, we had a series celebrating the 50th anniversary of films from 1968.
We talked about 2001 and 2010 for our Odyssey series, both adapted from Arthur C. Clarke's novels. Man, the second one was so much better than the first, right?
Don't you even get me started. Need I bring up Under the Cherry Moon again?
Yes, also so much better.
Wait, no, that's not what I...
Planet of the Apes kicked off its series based on the novel by Pierre Boulet.
We covered Danger Diabolic and The Detective, adapted from novels for our 1968 crime films.
Wait, wasn't that The Detective, the prequel to Die Hard?
They were both written by Roderick Thorpe, and yes, it's the same character in the books.
I can't believe they even asked Sinatra if he'd be in Die Hard. That would have been weird.
Once Upon a Time in America was part of our Leone Once Upon a Time trilogy, adapted from Harry Gray's novel.
And we looked at 1968 Best Picture nominees The Lion in Winter, Rachel, Romeo and Juliet, and Oliver!
We also had an Ingrid Bergman series with adaptations like Spellbound, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Murder on the Orient Express, and Gaslight.
We haven't talked about Gaslight.
Stop gaslighting me!
Dive deeper into these books and more adapted films at thenextreel.com/originals. Every purchase supports the podcast.
Get the full list of adaptations that we've covered on all the Next Reel family of podcasts and start your next read today at thenextreel.com/originals.